One word, Beatles.
Beatles?
I mean, everybody must say that. Yeah, 1964, the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. I mean, I don't know. My parents were really into music. My dad was into country stuff, and I hated country music. I just did not like the old style country, and he would watch, all the old stuff way back when, the Wilburn Brothers and ever who that was. Dolly Parton used to be on. I can't remember. I was just a youngster, but I just didn't ever care for it. I didn't know what I liked. My mom had a couple Buddy Holly and some Elvis Presley stuff that I'd listened to, but it just wasn't there. And I saw the Beatles in 1964 on Ed Sullivan. I said, that's it. That's what I want to be. So. And
did you grow your hair long and everything?
Oh, gosh, I tried. But, of course, my daddy took a belt to me and said, no, ain't going to happen. And then when I got old enough that he couldn't make a belt to me no more, I was into sports in high school. So then the coaches would, look at you and say, you want to play ball? Cut your hair.
Oh, no.
You were down to that. So finally, high school was over and everybody let their hair all the way down, and in the early 70s. So
what's funny about hair is that in the 60s it was long, and 70s was long hair, 80s was short hair, and 90s it was stringy hair, and it's like right now everything goes. You could have a band, 4 guys. You could have a bald guy, a long-haired guy, a short-haired guy, and they all be playing the same kind of music and getting along just fine. It's like anything goes these days, fashion-wise.
Right. It's amazing. Yeah, I was with I was with Yes the other night, and I was with them again in I believe it was October. I was with them at the Palms in Vegas, and there was Procol Harum opened up for them. So I was back here, and there was 5 guys in Procol Harum, and then the 5 in Yes, and just like you said, Mike. It was every kind of hairdo imaginable, from nearly bald to clear down to their rear end to halfway down to pull back. And they were, of course, all of them were gray, except for the younger ones. They were all gray and white, and stringy and just not even combed. And it's like, who cares anymore?
Doesn't even matter anymore.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. So.
Well, what was the biggest project you ever took on and thought to yourself, oh, my gosh, what did I get into?
Well, that might have been this last one, because I'm dealing with 2 different egos. I've never done that before. I've dealt with single egos before with a few people, and most of the time I stay in the background. I'm not one of those that like to get out front, and they put my name on these back of these CDs or albums. As an executive producer or producer, but I don't get out in front, and I normally don't do. This is actually the first year I've done interviews. I've just never done them. I just never did care to.
Well, thank God you are.
I hope I'm not embarrassing anybody. I couldn't just run my mouth 500 miles an hour, but I just never was one of those that liked to do it. But probably the biggest challenge was the one I just went through, and that was with Dave Evans and John Nitzinger, because there were 2 different styles. They come from 2 different types of music completely,
really?
And both of them were stars. And so when you have 2 stars, and you're, it's kind of hard, because you're both thinking, well, I'm the man. And the other one's going, no, I'm the man.
Yeah.
and I know which one is the man, but I can't really say,
No,
so,
you can't.
no, because I've chosen sides at that point, and it's not good. So, you're playing babysitter. And I say that respectfully. You're playing babysitter.
Right.
You're playing, keeping, being a neutral zone, keeping everybody together. Their wives, everybody's married, so you're keeping their wives at bay so they don't get to a cat fight, and you got everybody bad-mouthing each other and all this. And so, that was probably my biggest challenge. But we got through it with flying colors, and it went good, and everybody doesn't hate each other.
Yeah, nobody ended up black and blue.
No. Well, I would have been the one. Probably.
Right.
I'd have got caught in the middle of one of those and taken the hit. But no.
But I am a little concerned. I'm a little concerned because the album is called Revenge, though.
Yeah.
If you know Dave Evans is, he's one of those that's just the kind of guy he is, and he is, and he probably will get mad at me if I say this, but he's as sweet as a pussy cat behind the scenes, but
right.
out in the public, he's the muscle. In fact, he's called known as the badass of rock. And everything, and he likes to flex himself and talk big, and that's his shtick, and it's great, and it's worked, and he's stuck with it since '73.
Wow.
But my wife and him and his fiance, we've all been out 100 times together, and he's just as sweet as he can be. So
that's great.
Yeah,
we won't tell anybody.
Okay.
Yeah. And all you listeners out there, don't tell anybody.
For all you listeners out there, I just gave it away. Sorry, Dave. He's over in Australia. He left about 3 weeks ago, and he went to Australia to start touring for the AC/DC 40th year anniversary.
Wow, that's great.
Because they started in '73. So he's out doing that, and so maybe I think he's in Sydney or somewhere tonight. So he's quite a ways off.
Well, I have to tell you that my youngest son is 16 years old, and he has been in love with AC/DC for as long as I can remember.
Oh, my
And
God.
it's funny because that's about the only rock band he'll listen to. Otherwise, he
Really?
listens to that. Yeah, he listens to, like, hip-hop and all that other stuff. But he just loves AC/DC. And so when I told him I was going to talk to you and what you had just finished doing, he was just blown away. He's like, is he going to be on the show too? I'm like, no, sorry.
Well, that was a surprise I was going to try to give you since I was sick last week and couldn't get on. I was trying to get Dave to hook up, but because of scheduling conflicts and because he's on a completely different time zone.
In fact,
it's tomorrow sometime in the afternoon or morning right now.
Right.
I don't even know, but they've got rehearsals and stuff going on. But I would love to if we get the chance, if you ever want to try something again and I'm able to hook up with him.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
We could do something I can get him on. Because he and I are doing, in fact, we're already halfway through with a second album that he and I are doing just by ourselves.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's coming out, and I'm not really supposed to be saying this yet, but I can because
again, everybody, it's
I do what I want to. I don't have anybody to answer to, but we're coming out with it in December, and it's called "What About Tomorrow."
Oh, that's exciting! Yeah, please let's talk when that comes out.
Yeah. And it's 10 songs that me and my co-writers have written. So I'm producing, executive producing, and co-writing the whole thing. And Dave's he's gonna sing it all, and we're gonna release it through the same labels that we've just released this last Revenge album.
Well, this is the first time my son ever showed any kind of interest in my show, so I'll have to tell him about that.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he'd be thrilled to death. I don't even know if he could talk if I put him on the phone with him.
Well, when we get Dave on, we'll try to get him. If you can get him on, Dave would really, he knows how to handle him. He could talk real well to him and make him comfortable.
Yeah, because he's a little shy that way of getting on the phone to talk with people. So,
I could imagine.
Even if he just listened, I think he'd be happy.
Yeah. Oh, the first one that I interviewed, my very first interview. Now, of course, I'd already been out with the Todd Rundgren deal. I'd spent 3 days with him, so that kind of broke the ice with me, sitting there having lunch with Todd Rundgren and all these other people. And it helped, and I'd already met a lot of other, but I'd never done anybody on the phone doing, asking questions and trying to, come back with what I would call, good answers or trying to be, slick with them and all that.
Right.
And also my first one was Andy Frazier from Free.
Oh, wow.
And he's the one that wrote, All Right Now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's from, he's from the other side of the pond. And so, trying to understand his language and him understand my language especially, it was quite interesting. And I was calling him from Vegas, and we talked for about 15 minutes, and finally we broke the ice and just kind of hit it off, and we talked for 2 solid hours.
Wow.
And it just turned out so good. And in fact, I think he's on show number 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And,
well, check that out.
Yeah.
Now, you know, it's funny because it's not really asking questions after a while. It's just conversation.
Exactly.
That's what happened, Mike. Yeah. What I did on the show after I couldn't play the full 2 hours, and so and we were interviewing him, or I was talking to him on the phone, I should say, down in the lobby of the Paris Hotel. So we had a bunch of people gathered around as they started finding out who I was talking to, and so you could hear people starting to gather and come up behind us and start laughing because I'm laughing, and so I put him on loudspeaker, and boom, I mean it just took off. So we put about 10 or 15 minutes of the interview out of the 2-hour interview on the show, and it's just real interesting. And he tells how he wrote All Right Now.
Oh, neat! Definitely check that out, everybody.
Really interesting. So.
Well, who haven't you collaborated with yet that you'd like to in the future?
Oh wow. Boy, I don't.
You probably did with everybody, right?
Well, I mean, I've just about met everybody. Probably, maybe Sting. The reason I say that is we're going to Denver to a party with him in June, and. I would love to approach him and say, you know what, if you've got anything coming up, I would love to, if nothing else, just sit in on it. And I've done that with a lot of projects, just sit in on it and said a couple of words or if somebody would ask me my opinion, and that's good enough for me. I mean, I don't have to be the big wig or call all the shots. I love doing that more than anything, just giving a little opinion if somebody asks me. Or just this or that. But I would love to do something with him. I'm meeting Hart shortly after that.
Another great
and Nancy Wilson,
yeah, and of course they're not. A lot of these acts now are having to live off their past, which is what everybody wants to hear. It's just like the other night. Yes, it came out with a brand new CD, and it's good, but everybody wants to hear Roundabout.
Yeah.
So they do it. They play everything from Fragile and Yes songs and Close to the Edge because that's what everybody wants to hear.
But hopefully,
in that way, you're bringing on your old audience, but with the new songs, you're bringing on a new audience.
You're picking up a new audience too, right? Exactly, and that's what we're trying to do with Dave. We're trying to rejuvenate, although he doesn't need much rejuvenation because he's still kept his crowd and when you can associate that word AC/DC with your name, it's just like your son, Pam. It's got some merit. So.
Right.
And when I go to a show, the most successful acts, I think, are the ones who have all age groups there. For instance, if I go to a concert and I'm the youngest person in the crowd, that's bad news.
Yeah.
I like to see the next generation digging the music too.
I know, yeah. Well, we went to my producer and I went to the Beach Boys. It was late last summer, and it was over in Dallas. And we went backstage with them, and then we went to a sound check. And we thought it was just going to be a bunch of old people, not old, but I mean everybody, 45, 50 and up.
Right.
You can't imagine how many 20-year-olds were there. I bet it was half the audience were 20s and early 30s.
That's a group with a legacy. When you get that kind of following, Beach Boys and AC/DC, they all have young fans, and that's healthy, really healthy.
Yeah, it's very healthy. Yeah, and they've stayed with it. And Angus Young has done an amazing job keeping most of the group or some of the group together, and they're still putting out good stuff. They're still rocking, and it's just like Dave. Dave is, I believe, he's 59 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He's going to be 60 in July, something like that. He could still get up there and rock, just like Mick Jagger can at 70.
I know. I watched him recently. My gosh, he still can't do it.
I'm getting winded sitting there talking with y'all. Can y'all imagine him get up there at 70 and doing what he does?
Truly.
And Rod Stewart just recently came out with a new CD that I listened to, like the preview of the songs on YouTube, and it's like, recently he's done cover songs and like on his songbook, and those are good, but you want to hear the real Rod Stewart that you fell in love with, and this
with Maggie
CD
and all that.
reminds me of it.
Yes, I know. Yeah, we caught him over at I think it was Caesars is where he's playing now.
Okay.
If I'm Caesar's Palace, it's him and Elton John and Celine Dion. I think they all are taking. They're all taking turns, I guess.